Welcome to the Path Monk Presents podcast. My name is Sean Donnelly Lewis, and I'm really excited about our episode today. Today, we're talking with Alex Belding, and he is the Mad Growth Officer, watch out, and the co-founder of Webbrick. Alex, how's it going?
It's going well. Yeah. I didn't want to do chief revenue officer or chief marketing officer, so I wanted to toss them together. So
Right. The
I
only
figured
thing with saying like something is mad, you know what I mean? Like I think at some point it would be dated, but that's all right. You know,
yeah.
these descriptor words are here today and gone tomorrow.
Well, it fits with our service tiers. We have mad, madder, and maddest service tiers because we didn't want to do gold, silver, and bronze either, right? So
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you tell us more about Webbrick?
yeah. So we're in a quick nutshell, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to change the way that businesses approach their websites. The main one is with a better service model, right? Instead of the hours for dollars, freelancer hamster wheel, or the DIY dilemma, however you want to kind of frame it, it's website as a service. So these things aren't projects. COVID, beautifully proved our model. Websites need to be fluid, they need to be adaptable, and there should be a business model that is able to meet that in this, crazy change we're all going through. And it will do so next quarter and the quarter thereafter, right? So approaching your website as a service versus, a scope of work, very detail-oriented project. And then when everything's finished, what next and how do we touch this thing and who's responsible? Instead, it's we are an as a service vendor for the website. Additionally, though, websites also need to change. We need to stop using servers. We need to stop using monolithic architecture. And so we are really evangelizing the Jamstack, which is a really cool way of saying API first, cloud first, decentralized and global architecture out of the box, instead of trying to modernize tools like WordPress, which is ancient technology, and really allowing, the JavaScript revolution that's, eating the browser and really changing the way consumers interact with content, giving a better architecture for websites in that regard too. So we're revolutionizing the tech stack and trying to make a better business model for modern day marketing teams.
So how's the reception been, right? It sounds like you're trying to really take this train blazing thousands of miles per hour and try and rip it, do a U-turn. How's the reception been?
Reception is great, actually.
Okay.
To the folks that really see it, right? So when we approach, especially e-commerce teams or marketing agencies or marketing teams that are really pushing their traffic, really trying to stay ahead of the curve and be avant-garde with their website, they immediately know all the shortcomings of dev projects and managing a herd of freelancers, or trying to be very detailed with their scopes of work in a world where every 6 weeks it seems the website needs to do something different. So they really dig that. Other sections of the market, though, the quote unquote folks that we don't need a website, we grow through referral only, it doesn't fit with them, right? So we know our space.
Yeah.
And we've dabbled in trying to be small business facing, and when I say small business, maybe micro business, zip code oriented mom and pop shops. And website as a service has a bunch of value to them if they can see it. But realistically, the people that are jumping in and loving this are organizations that have a marketing department, or marketing agencies that are trying to, really deliver service to larger organizations. They can partner with Webbrick, or we can work as a direct vendor to marketing teams. Yeah.
And so how have you guys been able to grow the company, right? It's been around for a couple of years now. So has it been a lot of digital marketing? I'm assuming, yeah, we'll get to the website in a second, but I'm assuming digital marketing, SEO, the standard means, or have you guys done something totally different?
Yeah, so we've been marching along, producing content, really driving that SEO quotient. And, it's been a journey, and realistically, that's just starting to get us where we want to be. We're ranking really well for terms around headless content management systems and Jamstack and, service provider, all of those, migrating to the Jamstack, those kinds of keywords. But to start, right, like any plucky startup that's, has no venture capital behind it, it's account-based marketing and it's sales activity that has really been where, that's where the revenue has come from, right? So we're still actively, finding our customers, doing outbound, whether it's email, LinkedIn Messenger. The phone is a really powerful tool. A lot of people are afraid to touch it. I don't know why, because it works, but that's what we've been doing. Yeah.
And so what role does the website play then? If obviously you're trying to sell something, I'm assuming your website is is top notch.
Yeah, so I use so right now the website, I really use it mid sales funnel, right?
Okay.
A lot of people mess around with this notion that a website is only functions top of funnel, right? It needs to produce leads, which is a big ask for someone that's revolutionizing a service and introducing a tech stack that's brand new, right?
Mhm.
So we really haven't played in that game. We're letting, I mean, we use Netlify. They just had another huge funding round. We use Sanity CMS, another huge funding round. We'll let those guys go out and do the content marketing that drives awareness of the Jamstack. We don't have the, I mean, at least currently, we don't have the tools to really play in that game. And so while the website could be a lead generation tool, and it, people submit contact forms all the time, as you may be aware, organic contact form leads are a crapshoot, right? You have no idea what's coming through that form.
Sure.
8 times out of 10, it's either someone that misunderstands your service or is trying to sell you something. And so while that's great, SEO is wonderful. That's a long game, and we're still playing that game and all that jazz. Where we've really tried to use the website is mid funnel, meaning, hey, you're in a conversation with me, check out this landing page on the benefits of the Jamstack, or you should read this article that particularly mentions your industry, and talks about how, for example, e-commerce, right? The business case for e-commerce is a really great blog article that I use, with email marketing, and not just like blasting it out to, 25,000 people in a list, but, hey, John Doe, had a great call with you yesterday, read this article. And that has been really, really helpful to keep people educated and informed. I don't have to have the same blankety blank spiel over and over and over again.
Right.
And I can gauge interest, right? Oh, that IP address, open the email, it's on the blog post, and he spent 7 minutes. I bet he read it, so it helps me also be more intelligent about how I prospect and who I talk to by paying attention to the people that are actually looking at the content I'm spoon feeding them, whether it's on social media, messenger, email, even texted people, blog posts before.
Yeah. So just well, we're a podcast that talks about websites, so I'm just going to ask, if you were to be critical of your own website, and I know that it kind of would you and you'd want to improve it, right? Every marketeer wants to improve their website somehow. I mean, it's your bread and butter. So what would you say, where did you say that you guys are working to improve? Would it be the quality of leads, or lead generation, user experience?
For me, it's messaging and developing a better targeting to that message, right? And probably where the website is weakest is in really kind of showcasing the value of Jamstack coupled with website as a service, and what that means to the folks that are like half in the world of websites, right? I know the website is on message in technical content, because the number one thing that comes through our chatbot is WordPress developers sick and tired of working on WordPress looking for jobs all the time. Are you hiring? Please, we need it. And I feel for them, right? I mean, working in WordPress in this day and age, I don't even know how it's still so popular, right? The API first world will eat it alive eventually. Its days are coming. The whole Mike Mullenberg expose on Jamstack was a wonderful example of, its days are numbered kind of thing. And we do a great job with that technical content, right? We rank really well for it. And it's in our core competency, right? I mean, we are, behind me is a whole bunch of really nerdy, amazing devs that have built this thing. and it's what we know. So that messaging is clear and great. And so when we talk to marketing teams that are more technical, they respond with it immediately. But that's like, 2% of the marketing team. I mean, my whole thing realizing this journey 3 years on now is how much of a black box the internet really is. And the folks that are in the flight control room in marketing departments have no idea what is connected to the foot pedals, levers, and steering wheels that they're touching, right? And so that's probably been the biggest area we've struggled with, is how do you deliver extremely educational and fairly, new age content, but delivered in a way that the average Joe can understand it, pull value from it quickly, and go, oh, we need this, right? Because probably the biggest hurdle I have still, our business model is basically migrating people off of WordPress. And to date, a lot of people, still push back on that, say ridiculous things like Google prefers WordPress and, other crazy statements. And so we've got to work on making sure that our message doesn't hit on people's, nerves. Because initially we were like, WordPress sucks. We had this whole campaign, and all I did was get a bunch of trolls, right? I can't believe you, changing my religion, and people really are into it, right? And they should be to an extent. Yeah. But so that's probably what we really need to work on the most, is creating a message that invites the migration off of WordPress, still does a great job of communicating to that section of the market that really wants API first and is actively seeking for Jamstack, which is where we resonate the most right now. But really opening up the coalition to a more broad world of marketers and that's been really tough. That's been really tough.
Yeah, raging against the machine. Just coming back to what's that?
A little bit. I'm no Zach De La Rocha, but I could try to be, right?
Yeah. Maybe after the show. I don't think we can get something going here. Coming back to what you guys do, just for the people listening, what would you say you guys do? Well, it sounds like you've done a lot, but are there other people in the same space? Because this is not, this is full disclosure, this is not my space. So I'm wondering, are there people that occupy the same space? And if so, how is what you do any different? How do you let your services shine?
Right. So, 3 years ago, we actually entered the Jamstack with the intent of being a CMS, or a content management system. We still have Webbrick CMS. It's kind of dusty and on the back shelf. And that was the initial play, right? We'll go talk to developers. And we were super early. Like at that time, there were maybe 4 headless content management systems on the market. This is late 2016. I guess it's a little bit more than 3 years ago now. And today there's probably 75 headless content management systems on the market, right? So that whole ecosystem has exploded. There are not that many dedicated service providers on the Jamstack. They exist. There's a mostly European or that seems to be where most of the thought process that's really like digging in and really owning this is a lot of European firms. I'm here in the States. I've looked, there might be 2 or 3 others, so it's still extremely early. And the reason for that is if you throw a stick and hit somebody that's looking for a website, the first word that's going to come out of their mouth is WordPress, not because they know any better or because it's an intelligently thought of thing. It's just what they know, right? Or they'll say Wix or Squarespace. So at large, there's not a huge demand for Jamstack, but at the same token, I have noticed an explosion in the freelance world. You go on LinkedIn now, where 2 years ago, you search Jamstack freelancer and like nothing would come up. Now there are tons of them. So it is coming. What we do though, that most of these service, and even, still, whether you're talking to a WordPress team or a Jamstack team, website as a project is what they sell, right? I'll give you 100 hours at X number of dollars an hour. And then, we'll see where we are after 100 hours. Or I'll give you 90-day deliverable. We'll deliver a website. It's a flat, cost, 10 grand, for example. But then at the end of that, we will Pontius Pilate ourselves. We'll wash our hands, and the contract is over. whatever you have at that time is what you have. And if you want to do new features, major overhauls, updates, etc., it's a brand new scope of work. So that's probably where we're most able to differentiate ourselves, is just in the delivery of the service, right? You know, we can do an about face in the middle of onboarding and, you know, change feature set, and it doesn't cost you a dime. We can redesign the website 30 days after launching it, and it doesn't cost you a dime, right? We have a more honest cost of ownership in the website, right? Where most people will, here is the minimal cost to have a website from our company, and every time you raise your hand, you know, they throw another bill at you. Our websites look more expensive, but it's because it's the total cost of ownership. No matter what you do, you will not spend more money, which has been a major way for us to differentiate. And in the beginning, I wasn't even pushing tech stack because it was so new, and that's all we sold on. And it's still probably 90% of our sales cycle is on our service model, less on our tech stack.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a phrase one time, or a quote one time, that they say you got to stay a half a step of other people, right? Not a full step, because then you're too far. You know, like,
Right.
you just have to have that half step ahead of people. And I've never forgotten that. Just
Well, 3
thinking
years
that.
ago, I got into a sales cycle. It was the first one I had jumped into. I was talking to a CEO of a decently sized organization here in Colorado, and I blew it up because I literally, in the meeting, I said, well, you know how the internet works. And immediately I had, like, you know, just belittled him to a place that I wasn't. And I was like, oh, everybody knows how the freaking internet works. And it turns out, like, nobody does, right? Like, so it was a big lesson in figure out how to educate, but not over educate. And, you know, but at the same token, you know, deliver confidence without, you know, coming off as, you know, quote unquote, a prick, you know, because I totally did, right? And so that was a major lesson in how we had to approach telling people about, you know, API first.
Just thinking about marketing for a second, I just want to play a little game, right? I would just, when I say a word, I just want to see what you think would be the biggest challenge to it. So if I say innovation, what would you think, with your marketing hat on, or whatever general worldview hat on, what would you say is the biggest challenge?
Well, from a marketing perspective, is making your innovation valuable and actionable,
Right.
you know, and that's where we've struggled, as I've already talked about on this podcast. It's, you know, innovation is great, but if you're selling jet planes and the world is riding horseback, you know, it's really tough to, like, make it feasible, you know, experiential and understandable to a place where they can go, I need that, and I'm ready to actually do something about it today, right? That's
Mhm.
what I would say.
And just trying to make it really hard. If you think if you could focus on one step to improve the whole marketing process, what would it be? Would it be the road mapping, the growth initiatives, marketing, messaging, reporting? Where do you lie? It's interesting because I hear different
One neat
marketeers on
trick
the show.
to turn my company around, right? One neat trick. I mean, man,
There's no wrong answer, except
right?
for
There
when
isn't, and
you're
that's
wrong.
the son of a gun, right? Is that I guess one thing would be, and we're in the middle of it, is basically targeting, right? Who is the preferred customer, right? Who gets the most value out of your service? You know, going through your current book of business and finding the 10% of your customer base that, you know, is happiest with your service, is paying at a good, you know, service tier, and all of those things. What do they look like? How do we build our messaging to influence people that look like them, right? I guess targeting, if there was one word, but there's so many other things, you know. If there
Sure.
was one thing, if there was one thing for marketing, it would be to get rid of there's one thing thought process, right? Because there's not a
But for the
bazillion.
sake of argument, we have
Well,
to try
and
and,
for the sake of a 20-minute podcast, right? Yeah. Do you
right.
have 20 years? Because we'll still be chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to switch gears here for a second and talk about you as a leader. What kind of content do you consume to educate yourself and grow?
Oh man, what kind of content do I consume? Um, I pick up I physically get the Economist delivered to me every week, which is a great thing that's tactile and tangible, and has all kinds of information in it with a global perspective, which really kind of helps. And then I tend to follow industry specific hashtags on LinkedIn. I see what a lot of the big vendors in the space are publishing, whether it's headless content or headless content management or Jamstack stuff. And then I also try to kind of keep my foot in the world of traditional marketing and what's happening there. Although that whole place has felt really stagnant for a long time, inbound marketing really hasn't changed. I mean, at least the way I've, understand it and keep an eye on it and what's put into practice on the websites Webbrick builds on a daily basis seems to be that's kind of stuck in groupthink right now in terms of, what a website should do and how it should be deployed and all that jazz. But it's good to keep an eye on all of that content. And then I read a lot about kettlebells and trail running as well. Like those are kind of my fun things.
Great. So we're slowly coming to the end of the show. But before we do, I just want to jump into our rapid fire section. So this is where I mercilessly throw questions at you until you're lying on the floor. How does that sound?
It sounds fun.
I'm just kidding. It's completely harmless.
Yeah.
All right. Alex, what was the last book that you read?
It was a free book that I got off of the last book, I guess it was a software as a service marketing book, but I can't remember the title of it. Sorry.
That's all right. What's the single thing that your company is focused on the moment the most?
Revenue.
If there were no boundaries in technology, this is a good question for you. I would love to hear your answer to it. What would be the one thing you would want to have fixed for your company today?
Fixed for my company today? Computational power so that we could put our entire stack on blockchain. That'd be really cool.
What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about your company?
Oh, revenue.
I have a feeling we got a theme here going here. What's
the end of the quarter, man? I mean, like T minus, right?
If you were to start,
about to have the biggest quarter ever, so I got to make sure I have it. I got to make sure I push that hurdle as high as possible for next quarter.
If you were to give yourself one piece of advice at the beginning, let's just go back to your professional journey, right? What would be the one piece of advice you would give yourself if you were to restart today?
Oh man. Action is important, but think it through. In the beginning, I made the mistake of being too action oriented without too much strategy, right? And it resulted in us going through a pivot about 16 months ago. Arguably, that was an important thing. Our thesis was wrong, but we probably would have learned our thesis was wrong faster if there had been a little bit more intent in the way that we went to action. I see a lot of my customers do the exact opposite, right? They overthink, they never act, but it's a balance, right? It's action. That famous phrase, it's attributed to Lincoln. I think, if you gave me 4 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe, kind of deal. You have to give yourself the 4-hour window. A lot of people don't do that, and therefore, they sharpen their axe until it's a knife, it's gone. And so, and then other people did what I did and, started trying to fell a tree with a sledgehammer.
All right, Alex Belding. You can check out their stuff at Webbrick.com. Alex, just the last thing on the show, we always give our guests the last word. So if you want to sum up everything that we talked about, or if there's something you feel like we've forgotten, I just want to give you the last word today. The floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Well, I have no agenda. It was really fun to talk to you guys today and to talk about Jamstack a little bit. That would be, I guess, if you've never heard of Jamstack, which, you probably haven't, look into what is happening in this modern architecture, moving away from servers. It's actually called serverless. It's also known as API first or cloud first. As marketers, this stuff is purpose built for, the modern world that we live in. the way that our customers engage with, digital experiences across devices, across platforms, across even different web properties, and getting away from all of our eggs in one basket, and the platformatization of the internet, which has really caused the stagnation of what we all think of when we think of the internet. This allows us to democratize the place. It really allows us to move into truly Web 3.0 in a meaningful way, and it will be really, I think it will be great for everybody: content creators, marketing teams, brands, and more specifically users. We don't always have to go to the same 3 URLs to get our stuff, right? Google, Facebook, and Amazon. We can actually have what the internet was supposed to be, which is a global community of unique content creators and a true democracy, and versus what we have today, which is kind of this kleptocracy. But there's a whole nother topic there.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks for being on the show today, Alex.
Approach to the internet, but there we go. Yeah.
See you next time.
Hey, cheers, man.